Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. The first item on the work session is a request from First Hagerstown Hose Company and the First Hagerstown Hose Company Museum of Firefighting History for Big Six Bell. Members of First Hagerstown Hose Company are present, please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Does everyone have a copy of the letter that we put out? Okay. All right, my name is Ray Lushball. I'm secretary of the First Hagerstown Hose Company and co-curator of the museum right next to our fire station. And to my left is Mr. Jerry Salma, who is the treasurer of our fire company. And what we're going to propose to you this evening is the renovation and hopefully the use of the tower bell right above us is known as Big Six.
Just one big picture.
And anyone who's familiar with that should remember that that bell was used when we had the game wheel fire alarm system in the city, and used to be able to hear it all over town. And what we're basically looking for this evening is your blessing for us just to investigate to see if it's going to be feasible to rework that bell and have it ring at certain times of the day. It used to ring at 1 o'clock. And I remember at 1 o'clock, everybody would look at their watch to see if it was 1 o'clock, you know. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Solm, who is our resident expert on the game wheel system.
Thank you. Basically, the last time the bell was in service was 1969. It's been quite a while. It's been sitting idle for 48 years. There's a set of coils, there's a drawing going around, a set of coils on the striker that may be bad, but another fire museum in Maryland owes us a favor, and they may have a set of coils down there for us. The weights that were in the bottom of the shaft upstairs when we went through a tour with Mr. Dykey's personnel are missing, and the chain is still there. But we do have another striker to fire hall in our museum, and weights and a chain we could possibly put on loan if we need to use that. The bell would be set up to ring at 1, 2, 3, and 4 o'clock p.m. only, 7 days a week in the afternoon. And we would definitely, if we get this thing going, need a 110-volt receptacle up there somewhere to plug into the controller and make it strike. That's the only cost to the city would be a receptacle. The striker would have to be rewound every few weeks manually. We don't know how long it would last. It could go 30 days without having to be manually wound up. We'd have to go up there and rewind it. This would be done during regular hours at City Hall, and we would need a key to have access to go up there to wind the bell and work on it. From all this research we've done, we have found that there's no game wheel fire alarm bells working in the United States. This was put in 1897, I believe it was, and rang until 1969. Until we can actually get up and survey it and work on it and make sure the striker is not froze up solid, we can't this time guarantee it'll work, but we're able or willing to put in the time, labor, and resources to make this possible. And like I say, the only cost to the city would be if we get it loosened up and all and can procure with getting it working electric would be to put a receptacle in.
Okay, now mind you, for this investigation, it's not going to cost the city of anything. And what we're trying to do is tap into a vast amount of people that are interested in the fire service, and we firmly believe that there will be people coming from all over the United States to hear this thing ring. You just can't imagine, you know. I'm sure sometime in your life you've run into a situation where you said, man, I didn't know people collected that. And the same thing with the fire service. There is so much out there. So it's something that's going to benefit us and benefit the city of Hagerstown with your tourism. So we're just looking for your blessing right now to investigate it.
That's fine, thank you.
Yeah, likewise. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much for your time.
Appreciate it.
Okay, report from the Sister City visit to Vasel.
Hi. I'm Dusty Graham. This is Connie Lenhart, and Dick Eversole is here from our group. I'm co-president. Connie has been president for a lot of times, and she's our secretary right now. And we took a group of 10 people, 10 adults, to Vasel this summer, past summer. This is our 65th anniversary of the Hagerstown Sister City Organization. We're the oldest one in the United States.
Thanks, Connie.
The other ones that were established are 60 years old. They were set up by Dwight Eisenhower after World War II. Ours was set up on our own. So we aren't quite with that program. I have some slides that I took from this summer that I have a PowerPoint program for you to look at briefly. We left, 10 of us left in June 27th, and we flew to Amsterdam first. Our first stop was there. We worked with a travel agency in Morgansville, Intoxicating Travel, and she set up our arrangements for us. We had a dinner, special dinner in the evening, the beginning. If you've never been to Amsterdam, they have lots of bikes. I have other parts, many canals. But I want to get to, we went to the Heineken Experience, tried a new beer that does not have alcohol in it, the Waterline Museum. So we went to Basel. Basel is on the Rhine, and they picked Basel and Hagerstown. They paired up because we're a lot alike as far as our industry, and we have the Potomac River, they have the Rhine. When we arrived at Basel, we were met, the man and the gentleman at the bottom right is Richard Volsing, who is the president, he's been president for like 10 years of their group, their sister city group. We met with the mayor, Burgermeister, and she and her husband are coming. We have 8 council people coming, the Burgermeister, the mayor, as they call her, and her husband, and Richard and Helga Volsing are coming also. The city people are staying in a hotel, and Richard and Helga are staying with Connie. They had a reception for us afterwards. We exchanged gifts. We are going to have, they're coming at the end of the month, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Saturday morning, Richard took us on a tour of Basel. The building on the bottom left is their old rat house. They call it, it's a city hall, and they had that redone. The top right, Berliner Tor, here's a quiz. Have you ever seen a picture of that someplace in Hagerstown? Okay, that is, as you go right across the street from the post office downtown is a mural of the Berliner Tor. A lot of people that I talk about that have no idea that that has to do with Basel. That is the gate that's there, and we had that painted, somebody did years ago.
And it would be the train station. If you go straight through that, you would go to Berlin.
Oh, right, years ago.
The original version.
Yeah. So, and as we drove by it, so one of the things I forgot to put it on our accomplishment that we have on our paper here, but it was just redone. You can talk about that because you did that.
Oh, because, so, our original paint, that original one went up for the, before the 50th anniversary, and Bertina Messersmith painted it, so it just needed to be a little, to be sort of updated and tweaked a little. It was getting a little bit faded and a little bit cracking. So she actually just finished the restoration of it. So hopefully you'll notice that it's a little brighter and not so cracked, and it's got some, it should have some, I have to go look at it tonight on my way home, but it should have some new signage.
There is a sign at the bottom right, and, because I drove by it millions of times, and I think, people don't know what it is. So we asked for, and we haven't checked because we just found out it was finished. We asked for her to put Hagerstown Basel or Berliner Tor or some
On
kind
the
of
top.
signage on the top. So we've researched who owns that part, that wall, part of the building. Anyway, it's all taken care of, and.
The sign is there, but sometimes when the brushes,
Yes.
the bushes get too big, you can't see it.
And it needs to be something you can see as you're driving by or
Yeah.
stop at the stoplight there.
So that's
we're
an
trying to get-
accomplishment.
Yep. that's
With
what
the
I'm-
help of the city, actually. We
Oh,
had a
yeah.
lot of help.
Yes, they've been great. History of Basel, I'm not gonna go into too many details, but it was started in 1800, so it's old. And they were the French owned them, the Germans had them, they went back and
The
forth.
Danish.
Back at the Danish. What I think is interesting, this is their large market that they have, and their cathedral is still there, that's a cathedral. They call it the Willy Brody. What I found most interesting is in World War II, 97% of the city was bombed. And as you've been there, it's a newer city because they lost so much of it because it was one of the last bridges to go across the Rhine during World War II. And an interesting history of it. So, I'm not gonna go further. Our sister city affiliation was started in the 50s.
1952, and they actually made a visit here, and so it's the oldest existing sister city affiliation in the nation that's continued to thrive. And we're 65 years old, which is why we have this visit from Basel at the end of October.
And we went over. And we've had people saying, I'd like to travel, but I don't want to go by myself, so Connie, I took care of that. Basel acels are all over. The acel is a donkey. There's one, but the reason they say acel is because there's mountains nearby, and they would be, before telecommunications, they would be Basel, and it would echo awful, and it would sound like acel. So the donkey, the
Azel is
Basel
donkey.
is donkey, and so they have them decorated just like we have our butterflies and our hot air balloons. They're all over. And on our accomplishment list, for the 50th, they sent over a metal one, Germany did, which was sitting in Discovery Station, kind of in a back room. Not anymore. Thanks to Rodney, it is now in the University of Maryland System.
Little park.
Yeah, park, and they even moved one, there was two there that were painted, and we said, can you move them? Yes, so it's awesome, so that looks good.
Yeah,
So we're-
it did sit downstairs in the
Yes.
billing office
Yes,
for
it did.
years.
But now it can be seen
Now it
by
can be
lots of people.
seen, and there was already a plaque, so thank you very much, Rodney. That was awesome. So this is their cathedral, and they have this display inside here, it's gorgeous. At one point, we thought maybe the organ came from Hagerstown, Muller organ, but apparently it's not. Some of our group went to Cologne. I'm gonna go through these briefly, because this really is just part of our neat trip that we did. We went to a castle that had to do with part of this. We had a dinner.
20 years.
Wine tasting, we used public transportation, figuring out how to get back to where we were. We went to Rothenburg, one of my favorite cities. We went to
Stuttgart.
Stuttgart. This is Rothenburg. You see this, it's a very famous medieval city,
Munich.
right? Dave and Bill found some new friends in them. We did some, they liked their beer, we did some beer, we went to Heidelberg, we did some, stayed in a hotel, we had a last dinner wine and tasting, and we came home. Okay, this is what you have here, recent accomplishments, and some of these are forever, been a long time. The current exchange started in 1987, and I figured out we've had at least 350 students from the US go over and stay in Germany with our sister city.
And that's still in progress. We hosted last April, and in April of 2017, and in June of 2018, 16 students and 4 adults. We'll take them back to Basel. So we keep doing that. Best of the Verse, we started 3 years ago. So this is a fundraiser to support us, but we also,
Here's a book to look at.
hopefully that people, find out history about German sausages, and then some history about some of the beers.
I'm going to interject here. I forgot to pass this around. This is a picture of us when we were in Germany this summer, at Basel. And these are names of the pictures of the people, some of the people who are coming. So I'm going to pass this around because visual recognition, I'm a visual person, so you can look at these while we're here.
And in the last year, because we knew we had the 65th coming up, we got we helped, but with the city's initiation, to get the new sign on Basel Boulevard, which looks so much better and colorful. We appreciate that. And one of the more fun things we do is we handle the kids tent at August-Oktoberfest, so that's all Sister City help. And it has evolved over the last 22 or 23 years. Let's see, you can look down the list.
Many people come, they usually contact Connie, but we'll have student teachers, the Schützenfest, it's a gun group, a marksman's
a
group
rod
that
and gun
comes,
club.
rod and gun club comes. So we've had, besides not necessarily through the Sister City organization itself, but people who know that they can come to this area
Yeah,
and
we've
stop
housed a
through.
lot of, 3 different students that are gonna become English teachers, and they come and they stay here for 3 months, and they've stayed with me.
At the top of this page, we did a new logo, because the logo that we had 2 Prussian soldiers with guns facing this way. And I felt like in this day and age of our worldwide climate, that was just, that made me nervous. So I thought we discussed what to do. And actually, what we have at the top of this paper is our new seal, our logo. It's what Germany has, Basel has. I thought, wonder what they have. Oh, well, we can just change the words to English words, so we did that, and so we have the same one. So that's our new logo for the Sister City. And we've rejoined Sister Cities International, have not done a whole lot with them yet, but would like to. We belonged to them before. Erin Anderson, you guys have the greatest people working for the city. She helped us set up a Facebook page, because we need to get a little more into the digital age here. So she helped us with that, that was great. We have networked with Frederick and with Rockville Sister Cities. Apparently, we're one of the few in the state. And they're struggling, and we are also struggling in membership and as far as getting younger people involved or getting new members. Our members are literally and figuratively dying off. So we're trying to be more visible, and they came to our August-Toberfest, and we had a little meeting over in a corner. It was hard with the music, but it was great. They both have Oktoberfest coming up in this month that we're going to hopefully go down. So we're networking now with Frederick and with Rockville, which is really neat to get to know people from other cities. Okay, you want to talk about that?
So we've come up with, and we haven't actually got a finalized stamp on it, but here's our idea for their visit.
And that's on the second
And
page.
that's on that second page. So they'll arrive on Thursday night, well, late afternoon, but by the time they get to Hagerstown, it'll be pretty late. So we actually have got Bagelicious to actually have a dinner for them at their hotel because they're gonna be exhausted, and we didn't wanna have to move them more than a couple of times. So they're gonna stay at the Comfort Inn and on the Dual Highway, and we've got that one covered. On Friday, though, this is where the city comes in. We pick them up, we take the cultural trail to the reception that's held here, and then from there, we'll do Discovery Station and the places closer in, and then feed them lunch there. And then we've got a sister city, now our whole sister city affiliation and organization is invited to a dinner at St. John's. And then on Sunday, we'll tour Antietam Brewery,
Saturday.
I'm sorry, day off. Antietam Brewery, lunch at the brewery, Miller House, and again, we're still gonna highlight things that happen in the city. And then some free time before the parade.
And thank you, Mayor Brucci, for having their mayor ride with you in the parade.
Share
got-
your space.
Yes, that's great. And we have, we bought tickets across the reviewing stand for everybody, the rest of the group to.
Figure we'll drop her off there.
Yes,
Yeah.
please do, yes, well, yes.
At
And-
Brester, yeah.
Right, and so we'll watch the parade in the rest of the time. But thank you, we're excited about
Then
that.
Sunday, it's Antietam Battlefield, the Ag Center, C&O Canal, and then crabs. A crab, teach them how to pick some crabs. And then Monday, on our way, we're gonna take them back earlier to the to the airport so that we can stop at the museum by Dulles there.
With Varhese. the
With Barhazy on the
Smithsonian.
way to Dulles. So, we haven't got the final stamp on it, we're still tweaking it a
yep.
little bit, but this is, and we would love any time that you would, any time participate with us, that would be great.
Love to have it.
Love to have you.
But they will be here on that Friday, so we'll meet them then. So, thank you very much. And we want to let you know, but we went this summer, represented Hagerstown. They'll be coming in a couple weeks, so we're excited about that. So, thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Look forward to the visit.
You too.
Hagerstown Heights Sports Complex Annual Report.
Hello. Each year, our agreement with the Hagerstown Ice Amateur Athletic Association, each year they're asked to come in and give a report on the activities and revenues and expenditures of the operation. And so Paul Sweeney's with me again. Paul's the president of the board. He has some staff with him that he can introduce. But I just want to, before he starts, I want to thank Paul and the board for the time and the passion that they put into this city-owned facility. I think the operations there are just improving constantly. They're training the staff, and I'm just impressed by the operation that they're doing. So I'll turn it over to Paul for his report.
All right, thank you, Rodney. I have with me, if you don't mind stand up, Elliot Martin, he's our general manager, and Dan Lavalier is our facility manager. He manages, make sure all the equipment is running smoothly, and they've both done a pretty fantastic job, in my opinion, over the last year or two. So just want to make sure they get credit. They've done a great job. All right, here's our review. How do I change this? Oops. Okay, who uses the ice rink? Okay, a lot of people think, well, we're there, we got public skating going on, but what else is going on there? We have the Washington County North Stars, which is a high school team. We have the Hagerstown Adult Recreation League. We have the Mayhem Women's Hockey Team. We have the Kodiaks. You can see a picture of the Kodiak sled hockey team up there. We have the Hagerstown Adult Hockey League. We have the Hagerstown Bulldogs. We have the Youth Recreational League. And we have the Hagerstown Edge Skating Academy. So there's an awful lot of people that utilize that facility on a regular basis. This thing. There we go. What is HIAAA? It's the Hagerstown Ice Amateur Athletic Association. We're a nonprofit 501c3. We're made up of all the different user groups. The ones that I just mentioned before all sit on the board. Each member group has a voting member on the board. There's 4 at-large members, and the group was created back in 2014, and we formally took over operation of the rink on April 1st, 2014, and we just finished our 3rd complete fiscal year. The next slide is talking about public skating. We actually had a slight decrease in our public skating revenue from fiscal year ending in 2015 to 2016. But I wanted to point out, I think this is important, the revenues, back in 2014, the total revenue we had coming into the rink was $428,695. 2015, it grew to $492,780. In the most recent fiscal year, we broke the $500,000 mark. We were $501,227. And if you compare that to just 2 years ago, that's almost a 20% increase. So we've figured out ways to get more people using the facility, and we've got a couple of other ideas that we're implementing as well. And most of the money that we generate is going right back into the facility each and every year. Okay. Back the adult teams at the rink, we have 6 complete teams that play in the upper adult hockey league division. We have 9 in what we call the lower adult hockey division. We have 2 in the developmental, which is kind of like anybody that wants to learn how to play hockey. We have 1 all-female travel adult team, and we have a sled hockey team that is really growing. Council member Lou came out for a game that we had this past summer. It was a pretty exciting game, but we had over 20 people participating in that. So we have over 200 adult hockey players, not just people that come out once in a while. Amateur teams, we have currently 6 teams. I think there might be 7 in the Hagerstown Bulldog Association. We have 2 different high school teams. We have the Washington County North Stars, and we've added a new team last year called the West Virginia Vipers. We have 3 youth development programs, which include power skating, Learn to Play Hockey, and the Youth Rec League. So again, we have well over 200 youth hockey players right now. And a little caption at the bottom, we have a partnership with the Washington Capitals, which I think is really important. And they provide us with complete hockey gear for any kids that really want to play the game, because hockey gear can be somewhat expensive. We got 40 complete sets last year. I think we're going to get 50 this year. Is that right, Al? Yeah. So no cost at all to the players that want to play. The figure skating programs, we have the Hagerstown Edge Learn to Skate program and the Hagerstown Edge Figure Skating Club. There's currently about 100 figure skaters involved with that. Probably the biggest revenue generator we have is the Learn to Skate program for kids that want to learn how to skate. This is our opportunities for success. At our rink board meetings, we kind of examine what's going on, where we can, maybe improve different ways to get the ice used more. We're actually pretty much at capacity right now, other than if we could find a way to use it more during the daytime. We actually have got a new program that happens every Wednesday afternoon. We've got new showers in there now, so we actually have some daytime activity that's starting to pick up, and people can go play hockey, take a shower, and go back to work. We've hired a sales professional to sell advertising around the rink. We have SOPs in place to keep the place spick and span, and the physical state of the ice and the boards is in very good condition, although Dan would probably argue with me that we need to make some things better, and it's constantly finding ways to do that. This past summer, we took the ice, put it back in 1 week. So we've done, that's one of the few times we've actually done it in back-to-back years. All bills are current. We currently have a surplus in the rink account. I've already introduced both Elliot and Dan as our general manager and maintenance manager. We've hired a full-time, or a part-time program director, hockey director. He has really gotten the younger kids involved with the rink, so we're really excited about the number of programs and number of kids that are starting to play hockey. This is talking about preventive maintenance. We spent an awful lot of money getting the locker rooms finished with showers in there over the last couple of years. We've put a new HVAC system in. We replaced the cooling tower. We're working on the refrigerant pumps, and we just recently rebuilt 2 of the compressors. The rink is actually, believe it or not, 20 years old, and the compressors that we have in there needed a lot of work, and they're like brand-new compressors at this point. All right. Future maintenance and reinvestments. We purchased, if you look at the top, top 3 things, these are things we've already done. Purchased Freon, we spent about $33,000 on that. We're in the process of updating our computer system. We added Freon to the cooling system. And we're in the process of replacing one of our refrigerant pumps. The things that we're probably looking forward to doing in the next couple of years is we want to expand the current alarm system in the building. It really doesn't extend out to where the ice is. We're not really sure why that never occurred, but we're figuring that's going to cost us probably $30,000 to do that, and we want to get that done as soon as possible. The Zamboni is more than 20 years old. Probably is going to need to be replaced at some point in the future. And at some point, we're going to have to do a conversion of the current cooling system. What we have right now in the system is, what is it, R29 now?
It's not a 22 graph system.
Yeah, and that's a Freon that you're not going to be able to purchase in the future. So at some point, we're going to have to convert that. Looking back at what we've done, again, this is the same thing. We're monitoring the utilities. I talked about the cooling system. We're upgrading the security system. We have a lot of schools out, public skates. We're involved with both Star Community and ARC. Star Community does our landscaping out there. I don't know if you, Rodney, I'm sure you can talk about how nice it looks out there. It looks, they've done a great job. And community partnerships, we're involved with the Washington County Public School Flyers, the City of Hagerstown. We give hockey players a discount. The Parks and Rec program has a program put together that we're listed in. I also wanted to mention, it's not on the screen, but this past summer we worked with the Robert Johnson Center, and we had a mentoring program. The gentleman by the name of Art Hicks was running for the whole area. He wanted to expose, there were about 15 kids involved with it. He wanted to expose them to things they weren't comfortable with. You know, most kids are comfortable with playing football, maybe playing basketball, but not too many with ice skating. So we had 15 kids that got to experience ice skating, and Elliot was very much involved with getting those kids out there and actually skating, and they had a really good time, I think.
It's a good program.
It is. It's a great program.
Commend you for working with them.
Yeah, and we're going to work with them again probably next year. So, we have travel, youth, and adult tournaments. We've had them during the summertime. We're going to have another one. I think, is it Thanksgiving we're doing a tournament this year? Yeah, but that brings a lot of people into the community. The Police Athletic League has the roller hockey rink that was just refurbished. We're planning on helping to run some programs with that as well. So. And what we'd like to do, the closing slide here, is we're pretty much at capacity during the regular season, and it's time that we need to explore adding a new ice rink. Second sheet of ice, we feel that with the second sheet of ice, we're going to be able to bring an awful lot of additional revenue. We're at a point right now where we're actually making money out there, and we think that when we get a second sheet of ice, it's going to be even better. And I know there's been some talk about an indoor soccer facility in this area. We've actually come up with a couple of ideas to maybe even incorporate indoor soccer with a second sheet of ice as well. And I believe one of our members of our committee is going to be meeting with Mr. Alshire later this week to kind of talk about that. So,
When you talk about a second sheet of ice, you're talking about a whole other rink?
yeah, just another sheet of ice. Yeah, a sheet of
That would be housed in the current facility? or-
yeah. We wouldn't need to
There's enough room
build.
in there for another- Yes,
It's
no.
an expansion of the building.
Expansion of the
What it
building,
wouldn't include is like, no more additional locker.
We'd have to build additional locker rooms
So
for
it'll be a
that.
build out to accommodate.
Yeah, and one of the thoughts was if we built an indoor soccer facility at the same time and had them side by side, you'd be able to probably share locker rooms instead of having to double the
That's why the
expense.
rink sits back so far, because the plan was always for the second sheet to be out towards Security Road.
Yeah, the original plan called for a second sheet of ice to be added at some point, so it's
Okay,
built for
so
that.
okay.
And we really are at capacity right now, and I'm excited. If we get a second sheet of ice, we will make it work, guarantee. So, but that's pretty much our report. I'm more than happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Anybody have any questions?
I'm just so happy to see it going the way it's been going for
Yeah.
years now. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you all.
You're always welcome to come out there. I tell you, if you ever get a chance to come out when we have a sled hockey game, that is a really cool experience. It's for people that are disabled. They actually sit in a sled, and we have, I'm gonna say 20 members on our team now. And it's just something to see. These, many people that are, they're confined to a wheelchair, when they're on the ice are free, and they can do whatever they want. And it's, you gotta see it, it's really cool. Good. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Parks and Rec, Strategic Planning and Recreation Guide.
As Amy and Mark and I have discussed Parks and Recreation in our community, we felt like we needed a plan put together to help us grow in areas that we need to grow to make the community more healthy and well. We needed to be fiscally responsible, we needed to provide good service. So we put together a couple plans that we'd just like to briefly review with you tonight to hopefully show you that we're trying to be on the right track here. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about the survey that we put together, and we got feedback from the community. Talk a little bit about the strategic plan for Parks and Recreation overall. For the Train Museum, which is something that we've always struggled with, what's our goals there. And then Amy's going to talk more about our marketing plan that she's put together, and also the fall recreation guide. So the strategic plan began with talking to the community. So we put out a survey last year. We got about 400 responses back, and the information on the surveys in your packet. People talked about where they visited the most, what they liked most about the recreation amenities that we offer, which are often walking trails, biking trails, the playgrounds, things like that. 80% of them rated the experiences in our parks at good or excellent, and we're proud of that. And almost when people said they didn't use our facilities, the reason was they didn't know what was being offered, which speaks to we need a better marketing plan. So Amy will talk about that in a little bit. 40% of the people that responded participated in a recent program, and 92% of them said that their experience was good or excellent. So, and they gave us a lot of good comments, and those are attached in your packet as well. So we took their information, and we worked with a lady named Betsy Thompson, who was the longtime Parks and Recreation Director down in Rockville, to put together a strategic plan for where we want to go from here. And it has 5 goals outlined for general parks and recreation. The first one is that we want to grow the use of parks and adopt better maintenance practices. So one of the first things we've tackled this summer is, like the golf course, the pool have never had standard operating procedures put together. So we've tackled that effort. We're putting together maintenance plans for the parks, just so that just so things don't slip through the cracks. And that's an ongoing effort that we're putting together there. There are other objectives and that we're trying to accomplish under that goal, but that's the one that we're tackling here first. The second goal is just to increase awareness of the programs, and that speaks to the marketing plan that Amy will talk about here in a little bit. Right now, through the survey information we get, most people get their information on our programs through social media. And right now, we're only on Facebook, so we're going to expand that to Instagram, and I'll let Amy talk about that more.
And I'm gonna pass out another copy of this, because I apologize, our copier grabbed, I think, too many sheets or not enough sheets, and so you're missing a page out of the strategic plan, so if you wanna just grab one and pass that around. Sorry about that.
The third goal is to use more innovative funding and cost recovery efforts. We all know the situation of our so-called finances in our community. So the first thing is we have to develop what's called a cost recovery model. So if you take swimming lessons at the pool, you should pay the full cost of that plus some. And if you go to a fireworks show on July 4th, you don't pay anything, but there's a real cost there. In between, there's a whole bunch of activities that we offer. Should the user of the program pay 20%, 80%, 150% of the cost? So we're working on developing a cost recovery model for all the things that we offer. And we're also continually working to get grant funding. We just received another opportunity today, and also working with sponsorships, which I'll allow Amy to talk about in a little bit, sponsorships with community partners. And the fourth goal actually is leveraging strategic partnerships with our community partners. There's several health and wellness organizations out there that we don't want to do exactly what they're doing. We want to work together and create a partnership to improve the overall wellness of the community. And the last two goals is deliver high-quality, innovative programs to increase the health and well-being of the community. So we're constantly seeing where we can find our niche in improving health and well-being of the community, and Amy will share some of those when she goes over the rec guide. And then the sixth thing is deliver exemplary customer service. We want to continually train our staff on providing good customer service, and one of the ways we can do that is inspection of the playgrounds to make sure that they are safe, ADA compatible, and that they meet all safety requirements, and that's never been done before. So we're in the process of doing that as we speak. That's kind of the general overall Parks and Rec strategic plan. I wanted to spend a little more time talking about the Railroad Museum. When I became involved in parks about 6 years ago, and Amy and Mark and I meet periodically, it often comes up as to what's our goal with the Railroad Museum, the steam engine 202, and the facility that we have in City Park. It's the only Western Maryland steam engine of its type. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. It's a real gem that we would have that in our community. There's other nice amenities at that facility, such as the museum, and there's rail cars and cabooses. And it's a history display. But is that really all that we want it to be? So we want to respect that there is a railroad history there, but we also want to see it available to more people so that you don't have to be just a train enthusiast to want to go to this exhibit, so that it really is a kind of a must-see display for people that are visiting, especially families. So in our deliberations on this and working with our working with Betsy, we came up with some goals that we'd like to achieve at the train exhibit. And I think there is 6 of those altogether, 5 of them altogether. The first is we just simply want to make it more inviting for families. If you go out there right now, there's a lot of do not touch signs. It's a lot of memorabilia and things like that, and that's wonderful. But for children, we want to make it more interactive, more fun, and just make it more welcoming for families so that, that opens up that whole group of people that would be interested in coming to this facility. We'd like to start a museum store with just some small items like kids' train whistles, bandanas, conductor caps, things like that we've never offered before. We want to provide activities that are interpretive for visitors. We want to have like youth-oriented or interpretive signs, hands-on activities that are railroad-related for children. We want to continue to work with the community to make it a better exhibit, such as having Scout Badge Days where Eagle Scouts could earn a badge for visiting the facility. We want to work with the other railroad clubs in the area to make sure, again, that we're not reinventing the wheel. Fourth is we want to make the connection to Hagerstown as a railroad hub. It's a nice display. There's really nothing that shows what the history of Hagerstown was as far as being a railroad hub and what that meant for this community and how the community grew because of that. So we want to tell that story, and that's just simply through some exhibits that we could put together as staff and just make the display more comprehensive of that. And then finally, just want to create a must-see destination in Hagerstown, and that would involve redesigning our brochure, updating our website, and solicit stories from the community of the people that worked on the railroad. In the heyday of the railroad, those folks are coming less and less around, and we want to get some of their stories and be able to tell those stories through various media sources out at the exhibit. So that's kind of the direction we'd like to go with the train. I guess Amy can jump into the marketing plan and the guide, and then we can, any questions?
The selling 3 cabooses, I know one point we talked about selling
Yep.
1.
Right.
We're selling all,
Yep.
how many do we have, I guess?
8.
We have 8, is that right?
And it almost just seems like there's too many, to be
Oh, yeah,
honest
I'm not
with you.
disagreeing
Yeah.
with
So Amy's working on a plan to
Yeah.
put 3 on the market.
that. I know we were looking to sell 1 to help offset some budget things from back in the spring.
Right.
The other 2, if you're successful selling all 3, will that amount go, I guess, to your guys to do some of those other things you're talking about towards this museum? Is
I
that
think
the
it's just
thought
going into
process?
the general fund.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Rodney. I guess I'm going to speak a little bit to the marketing of all this and how we're going to keep things moving forward. I think as the rec department of the Parks and Rec Division, we want to be seen as a go-to provider of events and activities. I think we still have a long way to come for folks in the community to look at us in that way to see what we're providing. And again, according to the survey, 40% responded that they did not know what is being offered. So I think a big part of our marketing plan is getting that awareness out there of what we're providing as far as programs, as far as activities, as far as facilities, and as far as our park. So again, increasing the awareness of programs and services. Our social media has been really strong, but we're going to continue to build on that.
I'll just chime in that
Yeah.
we have more Facebook followers than Rockville and Frederick combined.
Yeah, and that continues to grow. It's just been such a strong way to get the message out to our followers. And we're looking at Instagram now too as well. And we're going to be running a digital marketing campaign to announce all of our new classes in the Fit Room. But again, we're strengthening our department brand. In that, we're trying to focus on our customers who we're trying to reach. We're going to look at efforts in making our promotions of programs, but also the message that we're trying to deliver we're looking at not always just saying about how great our programs are, but how these programs can actually affect the lives of people in the community. So we're going to be looking at the messaging that we're promoting. We have a new brand called Fit for You, so we're just looking overall how we're using that brand to develop the programs we do, the events we do, things at the pool, things at the golf course, and kind of making all that mesh together so people see Parks and Recreation as the city, and sometimes there's a lot of confusion about the county parks programs, and that we kind of want to build our brand that we do offer a lot in the city. We want to work on our signage. Again, thinking about the train museum, we had the consultant that helped us did like a secret shopper out to the train just to kind of see what the facility was all about. And when she got there, she felt it wasn't very inviting. It was kind of tucked back in at City Park with not a lot of signage that even talks to what the facility is. So we want to talk and look at all the different signage that we have at each facility and see how inviting it is for families. Again, increasing our social media presence. We have the guide, our new fall and winter guide that's come out. We're looking at opportunities to increase that distribution. I know when we presented the guide back in the spring, we talked about having the printed version versus an online version, and both are equally important. Most rec departments still continue to do a printed version. They actually bulk mail that. So we're gonna be looking into pricing to do that, and we wanna have a piece that reinforces what we're doing on social media, and we like the shelf life of the guide as well, and we've been able to push it through the schools in the city and through the county. We have our active registration system, so we want to work with the kind of analytics within that system just to kind of see where folks are coming from, how they're hearing about our programs, kind of looking at the analysis on that, and just continually looking at new ways to partner with other organizations to get the word out about what we're doing. So we have a long way to go with marketing, but it's exciting, and we're going to come up with a plan for our facilities and our programs. And then again, we just wanted to share that our new guide has come out. We're going to continue this twice a year. This is our fall and winter guide.
Is this the one you were talking about mailing, or is that something different?
This is the one we are considering mailing. So I think our first step would be to consider mailing our spring guide, because as our parks open, a lot of our programming is vamping up for the season. So we were going to see if, looking at the feasibility of affording something like this, but we would focus on the spring guide first, and then eventually, hopefully, mail out 2 guides a year. But we're also selling advertising within the guide to help pay for it. So as we're partnering with more organizations, we see that opportunity growing to have more people in the guide. But the big focus of this guide is our fit room, and it's exciting to see a lot of our programming growing. We have something happening in there every day as far as fitness classes, and we're also offering that room up for rentals. So we are seeing an increase in rentals in the fit room. But this guide kind of is our marketing piece for the whole division as far as what's new in our parks, what's new in our health and wellness programs and events. So we printed 17,000 of these guides, and they're pretty much have all been distributed so far, so.
So that's a real fast overview
Yeah.
of all these different things, but, real fast, but, invite any questions you might have.
I didn't know you were renting a fit room. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe you could partner with the chamber to try to have like a chamber event there to get local businesses in to know that's available to rent.
Okay, that'd be great. I could maybe host one of their, one of the
Like
mixers there.
mixers.
Yeah, that'd be great, yeah. Yeah, we're getting the word out about the rental facility. We've had some churches use it. We've had a wedding celebration, a birthday party. This is actually one of the events that rented the room, and they had someone come in and decorate. So the word's getting out.
The Railroad Museum, is it there? I lived on Highland Way for, I don't know, 5 years, so, I guess it was in some form of iteration when I was there. And it never really got what I would call measurable, patronage. Is it there out of convenience? Is it there because that's where we took the trains off the tracks, you know what I mean, that ended up there? And then you have, I guess, the privately sort of run entity across the way. And they both have what I will call fairly odd hours. That one seems to be a bit more hands-on or kid-oriented. And I'm just curious, you sort of have these 2 facilities that kind of operate, in a fairly sporadic fashion. And I'm not certain what level of, I guess, financial effort is going to be put into this location, at this location, if it's the location that's the issue. And I'm not a railroad enthusiast. I've never taken the kids to this location. The engine is sort of, and I talk about this as sort of behind, fencing. I can remember as a kid, I don't think it was behind fencing. I think you could actually get on it at one time. and now it's just sort of got a roof and a big chain link fence around it, and it looks very secluded. Even when we go to the park, it might as well be 5 miles away. Being over the hill there and sort of down in the backside of the park, right next to the railroad tracks, where you're just not, thinking in your mind to go, let alone it be a welcoming location, unless the park's full and that's where you happen to park your vehicle in that particular event.
Those are all good comments and things that we've been wrestling with. How it got there in the first place, I couldn't really speak to that. I know that's, John Long was instrumental in making all this happen, and somehow that was the location, City Park, I guess, that was underutilized. That's why they put the museum there. How we can make it more inviting, we totally agree with you on that, and I think that's what some of the things that we're talking about there is to have the fences that obviously there to keep the area secure, but there could be a lot more inviting things placed on the fence, just some simple banners and different signage, or here's what's here, come back at this time when it's open, because we only do have it open on the weekends. It's true. How we're gonna pay for this, I should have mentioned that there's several grant programs out there that we think we can go after to try to fund some of this, basically just improving the appearance of the place. We're not building any major facilities or anything like that.
I just don't want us to look at the appurtenances that we have associated with that museum, especially the ones that the city owns, and sort of stick ourselves in this box based on location. We always talk about, sort of the cultural atmosphere of downtown, and we got this engine, and you'd have to be superhuman to do any damage to it really as a kid. But I'd rather, 1,000 kids, and I know this is probably sort of sacrilege here, but I'd rather see 1,000 kids see it at a very visible space in a very culturally prone area in downtown than sort of us keep it in perpetuity behind chain link fence, out of sight, sort of out of mind, and running in a very marginalized fashion for the purpose of saying, we have this museum, so when at the same time you got another museum literally, another 100 yards away, but it might as well be miles away from that one because there is no access between the two. You have to literally leave the site and drive all the way around Virginia Avenue and Burhans Boulevard to even get to that one. And it just, it sort of looks like both of those exist in a fashion that's where the pieces ended up. You know what I mean? Right next to what used to be a roundhouse that's now gone, what used to be, a much more active rail system in that direct vicinity. And
You work with them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know that in doing what we're talking about, strategic planning for the museum, we do a good partnership with them, because we do Railroad Heritage Days, and we meet with them like every month or so just to kind of talk about programming, so we would be working with them to not necessarily duplicate
The other one, the one.
Roundhouse
But
Museum.
you can't get to them, right?
No.
I mean, you can coordinate all you want, but nobody is, you're not gonna get a
Right.
rational crowd, right, to go to one and then get in their cars and go to another, space of limited accessibility. And all I'm saying is, I think we need to be thinking way outside of the box on this item, if the idea is to sustain that as sort of, a productive item within your park's opportunities. And I feel like we did choose the location simply because it was there, it was space available, and nobody's really using it. That's where the stuff already was. It doesn't have to be that way.
I like your idea about the train being more accessible for kids. Do you have any thought of where you wanted it, or
No,
not wanted it,
no.
but ideas of possibilities?
No, it just,
No.
I guess part of my thought process on that is obviously, you know, we're working in Myersville to relocate the trolley, you know, in Myersville, which is a similar structure, 47,000 pounds. I mean, these aren't impossible to move. And then, I don't know if you've been to Knoebels, but in Knoebels, they've got sort of that mining train theme back in the back, and there's a huge engine that I mean, you know, you can't keep the kids off of it. And that's sort of what I would envision, you know, if we're gonna keep that type of equipment. It's no fun to a kid behind a 10-foot chain link fence.
I think we're adding to it as well. We're building the pavilion there that'll be available in the spring. We've had several birthday parties booked back there. I think adding some playground equipment, making it more inviting, I guess is our goal, to really make it more engaging and a place that kids want to go when they're in City Park.
We want to see more kids climbing on it too.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Nothing else on that issue?
He's done a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. IAFF Local 1605 labor contract.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to bring to you a tentative contract with IAFF Local 1605. The local ratified from their side on Sunday morning, so I'll be looking for you all this evening to vote in special session on the full ratification of the contract. Before I get into the contract itself, I just want to thank the city team that worked with me. Karen Paulson obviously is not here. Wendy Nussbaum got to experience some of the negotiations towards the end. Adam Hopkins from the fire department, who did a great job of keeping me from making too many stupid comments about fire operations. And of course, Chief Lohr, who was a leader in the whole process with us. Also, the 1605 team, Greg Jurgen, who is the chief negotiator, sitting here. Todd Grimes is the local president. Other members of the negotiating team, Scott Bear, I don't believe he's here. Brian Henry's back there. Todd Grimes is back there, and Craig Sipes, who I don't think walked in. So that was 1605 negotiating committee. We began negotiations back in January. Between the two sides, we had 92 proposals put on the table. So we got to experience each other quite a bit over the last 9 months, and going over 92 proposals, kind of equal on both sides. I think maybe the union had a couple more than us, but so we spent a lot of time going over those proposals. Basically, in the end, what it really comes down to, of which of those 38 were agreed upon. We rejected or withdrawn on both sides the majority of them. The major ones, the major proposals, as it always is, were the wages and benefits. And what we tentatively agreed to was a 1-year contract, retro, full restore, retro back to July 3rd. All the healthcare proposals that were put on the table were agreed to. And we also streamlined the grievance process within the contract to make it a little bit more flow, and make it flow a little bit better, actually, for both sides. As I said, there were 35 other agreements that we came to. Some of them were just housekeeping. Some of them were due to legal requirements that we had to make changes in the contract to. But the biggest one, obviously, was the wages and benefits proposal. How it ended up is that with the full restore back to the current years of service on the scale, that scale is frozen through this term of the contract. That money was budgeted for in FY18, so there's no additional money that's being put out to get them restored back to their current year of service. They are now, they were the last union that was to be restored back to their current year of service since we froze back in, I think it was 2011. So now every bargaining unit is back to their current year of service, IBEW, both ASMEs, and now IAFF. We had a lot, without getting too far into it, we had a lot of discussion on the wages and benefits. Both of us eventually were coming from diametric sides, but through a lot of talk between the teams, a lot of productive talk, a lot of constructive talk, we finally, it just boiled it down to let's get back to the current year of service, back to what's budgeted, and then let's let the chief work with the unions to implement some of the things the chief is doing to get cost savings on the books, and then come back in the spring and try to work through some of these other 50-some proposals that we both withdrew or rejected, revisit those, and try to come up with a more long-term contract. So that's where we're at. I sent the contract out to you. I tried to give you as much advance as I could to get you if you want to get familiar with it, to ask questions. Greg is here from the union side. I've got Chief and Adam in the back that can answer any operational questions you might have regarding the contract. And again, we think this is a good point. We're at a good point with the contract, and we'd like to get your support for it. We are ready for questions.
I mean, I have 4 questions. I already sent them to you. And I can't pull up the red line version, so I'm just going to have to go from what I sent. So my first was Article 4, Section 4. There's a change in wording. The previous contract, I believe, does not include the word negotiation.
Right.
I believe it simply says,
Confer.
yeah. After considering information supplied by the union.
Right.
How does that term change, how does the term negotiation change the context in which the chief is required to consider that information?
It really doesn't. I think what it does, it provides, the one thing Chief has tried to do since, and not to put words in his mouth, but I'll put words in his mouth. What I think he's tried to do since he's become chief is have more of a transparent dialogue with the local, and be more of a give and take type of a chief with the local. That's the negotiate term in there. I don't know if negotiate as far as decision making is really a good way to put it, but I would say it's more of a give and take between the chief and command staff and the local. Ultimately, it's the chief's decision. In the article that you're referring to, ultimately it's the chief's decision as to what he does.
So why change the language then? Because when you include a term negotiation and you replace that with simply providing information, I don't know. I completely understand. We're talking about this chief at this moment, this union representation at this moment. I can understand very clearly what provide information means. Somebody's going to give me information, I'm going to take that under advisement.
Or not.
And make that decision. When you say after negotiation with the union, I don't know what that means. Does that mean formal negotiation? In other words, if there's an issue that arises, clearly now there is a context in the change in that language in this specific section that one group has an understanding of and the other group should have an understanding of, and they should be clear in nature. And
Do you want to?
I don't know what this means.
Could you change that word to consultation?
not since they've ratified it.
Right.
It'd be something we could bring up if it's ratified in the next, I think, I truly think what it boils down to, Councilman, is when you said, when it said provide information, it could be provided and put in the garbage can. And I think that was part of the, that was part of the concern from the local side. This at least allows negotiation, discussion, give and take, whatever you want to say. I think that makes it a little bit more of a discussion.
Under what
environment.
context?
So, Councilman, I think I could help with that. It's been my practice throughout my whole career before I landed in Hagerstown, but certainly since I've been here. The way I would describe that context would be notice and opportunity. So when we set out to formulate a change in policy, direction, strategy, tactics, administrative, whatever, I include the local and say, how do you believe this is going to impact you? Now, in some cases, we have made adjustments cooperatively and collaboratively to get things done. In other cases, we have not. And I would use the enforcement of the sick leave regulation as an area where we probably didn't agree, right? So I'm not sure if the literal definition of that term is causing you concern, but what I would say,
yeah.
what I would say is that, you know, and I have to say this on behalf of the entire department, the local, the volunteers. When I got here, I asked them to start a new day. For some reason, trust and respect, to one degree or another, have been lost.
I understand all of that, but that's
They have done
you
that.
here at this moment and them here at this moment, and it's my experience that when we change these types of words within these documents, they're in there. For a good period of time, once they're in there. And all I'm saying is, I mean, this is a negotiated contract, and it's including a term that you're going to negotiate items after it by using that term, because I don't, there is no clarity there. It says, if in this instance on this item, and it doesn't even really specify, you know, I mean, this is a very broad subject base of management directive, that if there is a disagreement, what does negotiation mean? Does that mean you guys meet once? Is there a stipulation you meet twice? Does this change in terminology now set up parameters where you know, it could create a situation for an aggrieved issue? I mean, I don't know that because it's a clear
I don't believe
dynamic
it does
change.
because
Yeah, I don't know that.
elsewhere
I'm
throughout
not-
that document, there are terms and conditions for grievance procedure, for, I meet with all elements of the department every single month.
So let's say you get to the point, and let's say it's an aggrieved issue that's not directly within this language, and the party says, well, hey, you were supposed to negotiate with us on that item. It says it right here. You were going to negotiate, and you say, well, we met, we talked about it that one time, and that party says, well, that's not our interpretation of negotiation.
Councilman,
I don't know that because I don't know what that term means.
can I just make one statement on that? I did look at that when they were doing this, during the negotiations as we were talking about things, and I think that the next comma clarifies that to me. So this is just saying we will give the opportunity to discuss, but then the fire chief has the absolute discretion to issue, revise, and amend regulations. So
Yeah, I
that there
read
should
that.
alleviate any of your concern that they're.
Which begs my question again, then, why even change it?
Because I think ultimately, what the union wanted was a chance to have a give and take discussion with the fire chief and with command staff. And that would be,
I get
but,
that.
and that would be the term of negotiation, I would say, in this point. Instead of just unilateral decisions being had across the board, there would be an opportunity for
But
the.
you're saying it gives him that.
He would have the
certainly
final
does.
discretion.
It certainly does, but now,
Not before
there's a
some
discussion.
discussion.
Not before a discussion and a give and take is provided.
Right, and that's how I understood that, how all parties understood
Then
that to
Right.
be.
I mean, why didn't we use the word discussion then? After discussion with the union and other sources? That sounds perfectly fine. When you enter the term negotiation, that clearly, by the very nature of that term, when you're dealing with an employee group, has a specific connotation to it. And unless we define what that is, I don't care whether you said it was one meeting, it's two meetings, whatever, it clearly is going to change the parameters of
I don't-
either party's understanding, if that ultimatum is given and the other party feels that the context of that particular item has not been fully fleshed out.
That was just not the spirit of the discussion and that decision between parties.
I hear you on that too.
What's that?
It was simply to have a seat at the table.
Right.
For some decisions, that's.
Right.
Probably
I think
could
if- I
have
think
chose,
if you
probably could have
didn't-
chose a better word. but-
If you didn't have that clarifier there,
Revisit that in the.
Oh, the next, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's certainly
So,
only one term.
can we move?
on the one-year term, right?
Paul, are you okay with that wording as it stands right now in the explanation? And Lou, are you okay? Emily, are you okay? And, or are you okay or not?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Especially considering he just said we can revisit it later on anyway, so.
Right, right. Okay. Can we move forward now?
Wait, don't go too far. Too far. I need you for the next one.
Kristen has a couple he wants
I know
to
the
go
next
over,
one.
so that's important. We have to.
Article 8, Section 3 and Section 4, it adds the union president into both of those sections. Let me get to it. The employer may make temporary transfers of employees to positions other than those they normally perform in order to meet the requirements of the operation of the department. The employer shall make transfers based on seniority and training levels. Employees for the position the employees be transferred to. The employee may oppose and transfer should their transfer be only by the express purpose of maintaining adequate emergency services. Transfer shall be permitted for training and education class only upon mutual agreement of fire chief. Yeah. Right on. So this is also already taking place in the department, right? I'm on the right part, right?
Yeah, you're on the right one.
Section 4
That's
mentions,
section 3, last paragraph, and then section 4 also adds the fire chief, union president.
Yeah.
Instead of both parties, which infers the fire chief and union president, any employee, it spells out who the parties are.
So you're saying that this document already specified both parties? That the
It
union,
implied that.
that the union already had that authority?
In section 4, it did.
Yes.
Okay. In section 3?
In section 3 related to the transfer,
Right, it adds the word union in there.
right,
My basic question is,
for training and education.
based on what you're saying that authority was already provided to the union?
Yes. Not officially in the written agreement, but I think it was in practice. And specifically, council members, so let's say we had a long-term injury. And one of the ways that we would balance the use of overtime in that situation possibly would involve the transfer of an employee from one shift to another in the terms and conditions of this contract, respecting seniority, respecting qualifications, respecting all those other things. I don't know of any time in my tenure, or even before my tenure, where that was done without the input of the local. This kind of solidifies that, and rather than both parties specifically calls them out.
Okay. Yeah, I get that in part 4. Section 3, you're saying the same thing, because there it doesn't call out, there you're not getting rid of language that includes both parties. There you are adding the union into that decision-making process, because at first it was the fire chief and the affected personnel. now to be the fire chief, the union, and I'm assuming you mean union president. In other words, I don't know how you.
There's a hierarchy there, that's normally how it goes, but what I would tell you is that practice has been in place certainly since I've got here, and I believe long before that.
Okay.
Is that fair, Greg?
Yes.
Article 10, Section 11, this is the third item. There we go.
That has to deal with vacation carryover. And I believe the part that you're most concerned with is what if the city is approving, that the addition to that section 11, if the employee is unable to use his or her excess unused vacation leave by June 2nd of the calendar year, the city shall pay the employee for all unused excess vacation leave if the city has approved proven cause for the unused time. Now, what that means, right now, there's a situation within the fire department, and Chief will correct me if I'm wrong, where there are not enough leave slots for the number of hours of leave for the firefighters. So what was previously in there was that you could carry over the leave. Well, carrying over the leave doesn't do a whole lot of good if there's not enough leave slots in the first place. So basically what you're doing, one of our friends in the back there called it Confederate money, and that's really what it was. It was no good to carry over the leave. So what we're looking to do here is if we can show that the city is a cause for them not using their leave, for example, if they were scheduled to go on vacation or take whatever leave they're taking, and they get called back in for some reason, some emergency reason, or just to cover a shift because minimum manning's an issue, that would be a city reason for them not to be able to take their leave, okay? But if they were just looking at the leave sheet and the only available time they could have taken, that they wanted to take off was a Thursday, and they didn't want to take that Thursday, then that would not be a city reason. That would just be their choice. They didn't want to take that day.
But, and my point when I said this to you is, I don't even know why we're including that last bit. Because all that's going to do is somewhere down this road create consternation of one party trying to prove that the other party did or didn't create that situation. Why not just get rid of that sentence and provide it? That's gonna come up.
Well,
if this were a lengthier contract, it would definitely come up at some point down the road. If this were more than the
Well, let me
the time
also-
specified, I don't know why we sort of set ourselves up for the pending grievance that's gonna create.
Well, I don't necessarily think it will in the spirit of the conversations that both sides had at the table. I think both sides understood what that clause
And
means.
I hear that all the time, the spirit of the conversation, but I don't have that component. What I have is the
Understood.
document in front of me and the implications that are created by the literal language that is within it.
Understood. The other point I'll make is that with another reason to try to get a contract in the period that we did is, Chief is right in the beginning stages of making what could be some changes in cooperation with the union that would help alleviate this whole leave situation to where there would not be too many leave hours for the leave slots that are available.
Yeah, what's driving, I guess, that issue? Is it a staffing issue, or is it just,
Well, you've heard me talk before about guaranteed posts.
right?
So public safety agencies, particularly fire department, corrections, which we don't do here, we guarantee a certain minimum number of posts. What we also do, in order to control budget, is regulate the number of approved leave slots available on any given days. And the combination of those two things have crashed. Is the best way I can answer it, council member. Now, I will tell you that what didn't make it to the director's cut that I think we will be able to achieve in this 1 year interim period of time is
What's the resolution, I guess?
is a defined process that gets Councilmember Elshire where he wants to be with clear language of how we manage that crash. We were very, very close, I think, in negotiations.
We were.
And it just didn't make it to this director's cut, but certainly duly noted, and I understand exactly what you're
I mean,
saying.
this sort of sets us up to uselessly lose a bunch of arguments.
I don't believe it will. I
I
hope
guess
you
for me, I'd rather
have,
just pay them out.
I would ask you to have faith for this interim
Then
period.
force them to prove cause. We already know, I mean, we're sitting here telling ourselves.
I don't think we would argue that. I mean, we would know if we were the cause, and
Absolutely.
we would pay it
And-
out.
And I would say this as well. If 1 year from now, we are at this table with the same conversation, you can own both of us. Right?
Well, I don't think you're speaking for me on that.
I looked at Greg, you know, I'll take that bullet for you,
I got a
Scott.
memory like an elephant.
We're trying to correct the situation.
We are.
We have members that cannot use their duly earned vacation.
Oh, I get it.
holiday.
Oh, yeah, and that's
I'm
what's
just trying to give it away to say, look, we're not gonna
So,
fight you.
without
We're already
the-
recognizing
Right.
we've got a shortage problem.
that was-
Without this,
So
we
I don't want
have
you to
members that
argue
could surrender
that.
duly earned time.
Yeah.
And we don't want that.
That's
We were
not
just
fair
trying to
either.
protect, it was
I
a way
get
to
it.
try to protect both interests.
And I'm trying to keep us out of the grievance box and just say, yeah, you're probably gonna win this argument.
That's
every
my job
time.
every day, keep us out of the
There you
grievance
go.
box.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that this is, for the lack of a better description or analogy, assurance to the local that we're just not gonna dismiss this issue, that we're gonna keep it elevated and important, because we know it's important to them, and it's important to us. And we'll be back here with a resolution, I hope, and I'm pretty confident we will be.
The other one you already answered. I'm fine with that.
So we're good now.
What, just real quick, and first of all, Scott, thank you for everything you've done with all the units over the last couple months. I think it's a very powerful statement. You said that every bargaining unit is now back into their current years of service, so thank you for that. I guess my question with you guys, and I don't know if there's one particular answer per se, but what held it back from just the 1 year? 'Cause I know that the goal was to try to get a multi-year, get you guys up and get you going, and get you going forward.
I'm,
I
Greg,
know there's 92 back and forth and 52 things, and that sounds like a lot.
Well,
but is there top three things that are like major sticking points that are keeping this from going more than just a 1 year deal?
I think one of the biggest things were where we were coming at at pay. We both, between the MOU, between some of the other, the contracts and savings that were agreed upon, we worked extremely hard, both the city team, the local, and the chief, in many meetings, to try to come up with a pay structure that would, that in conjunction with identified savings, could get the union to where they wanted to be pay-wise, but yet not leave the city exposed on our side as far as the cost of wages. And I believe we spoke a time or two where that was about a $500,000 hit over 3 years. The union wanted it quicker. We wanted it spread out. We hashed that back and forth many hours. Ultimately, what we were able to see was that we were really at a situation where let's get this union back to their current, to join the other locals and get them back to their current year of service. Let the chief work with the union to try to identify more savings that could help offset the pay structure that the union was looking to get, and see if we can make that number drop. If we just continue rolling this existing contract, it's only gonna cost the city exponentially more money to get them back to their, if ever, to get them back to their year of service. So that, we both recognize that was really the one common denominator of the whole pay discussion, and that's what, and that's where we came to an agreement to lay at for now. And then come back in January, with the chief having some time to recognize some savings and implement some other things, and see where we're at and keep working through this. We just didn't want to throw away a lot of good work. Over what we thought was good work. You guys may hopefully think it will be too, but what we thought was a lot of good work, just on this issue.
Anything else on the contract? Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Funding for distribution general foreman.
Good evening. Thanks, all of you, for entertaining our request. The Hagerstown Light Department currently, we possess 6 unfunded positions, and that's been carried from fiscal year 11 to this fiscal year 18. We're requesting to refund the general foreman position, which we've held open since 2011. The addition of this position, when we see what goes on in the workforce for work practices, for us, is it's going to be assistance with safety for the crews, work practice efficiency, and of course to help us with financial management to make sure our money's well spent in the division itself. Currently, we have spread these duties out. The distribution superintendent does a portion of these duties, and also our staff engineer, Jason, has assisted us greatly in filling in for Steve when he's off and for other issues that line workers need answered. He needs to concentrate on his position. We have the electrical engineer position is open under him, and we've had a great amount of work that's come through that requires engineering assistance that he hasn't been able to fully capture because we've utilized him in another position. We have the financial wherewithal to pay for this within the fund itself. We feel this will be a great assistance to all of us in our everyday operation. There is a wage compression issue. That's why we put in there for a step 10 or higher to make sure that this position does make more on a non-overtime basis than the lead line workers do.
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your
Good,
consideration.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, thank you all.
Okay, I need to get a motion to go into the 25th special session.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
give that one to Emily. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, first is the approval of IAFF's Local 1605 labor contract.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council approval of a collective bargaining agreement between the city of Hagerstown and the International Association of Firefighters, Local 1605. This agreement shall run for a period of 1 year, commencing on July 3rd, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Approval of the Hagerstown Light Department request to fund distribution general foreman position.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move the mayor and city council approve the Hagerstown Light Department request to fund the distribution general foreman position. This position is identified at pay grade 19, and to avoid a wage compression issue, a step 10 or higher offer and base salary will be required. The HLD financial position is currently strong, and funding can be accomplished within the current fiscal year.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Approval of HVAC services and maintenance agreement contract, 10/1/2017, 6/30/2019.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move for mayor and council to authorize and approve MS Johnson and Company, Inc. as the City of Hagerstown air filtration systems and HVAC heating, ventilation, air conditioning, preventative maintenance, and repair contract with hourly repair services as needed for various buildings, facilities in the City of Hagerstown. These services were offered through bid proposal in August 2017, bid 163517. MS Johnson and Company, Inc. was awarded the bid. Contract term is from October 1, 2017 through June 30, 2019, with the possibility of up to 3 additional consecutive 1-year extensions, subject to the mutual consent of the City of Hagerstown and MS Johnson Company, Inc. Total contract annual amount is $29,202 for FY 18, 19, and 20 for a departmental breakdown below. Light Department, 18668, Park Department, 5682, Public Works, 13414, Wastewater Department, 4010, Water Department, 4,228 for a total of $29,202.
Second.
Discussion.
Were they the only bid? Just out of curiosity, I didn't see anything else in the packet. Not that big a deal, but once they're.
Rodney was taking this bid, wasn't he?
Is that the only bid?
No, there were several, I'm sorry. There were several other bidders who responded. MS Johnson was the low bid, and also when it's across all these departments, we actually send it back to our cross-department team, and everybody decided to do this. And it's nothing new. We've actually had this before. It just expired at the end of June. While we
MS Johnson's been the provider for.
MS Johnson and Beaver Mechanical
Yeah.
on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. The approval of the Barbara Ingram School for the Arts Foundation Street Lamp Holiday Project.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for approval of the Barbara Ingram School for the Arts, BISFA Foundation Street Lamp Holiday Project. For the 7th year, the BISFA Foundation has requested to partner with the City of Hagerstown to decorate the street lamp post at City Center by selling sponsorships for personalized holiday banners. BISFA is seeking approval to use the lamp post for their program and will take care of the labor to install the banners. BISFA volunteers and/or a contractor will follow city guidelines for their installation, and volunteers will sign hold harmless agreements, and/or the contractor doing the installation will provide the city with a certificate of insurance.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, city administrator comments?
Just this past Friday, I attended the Thunder in the Square, which was a fabulous event in combination with the wind down. It was wonderful. The evening was beautiful, hosted by the Alsatia Club. So just a good time, with very nice turnout for downtown. That's all, Mayor.
Lou? Paul?
I would echo city administrator's comments. Thunder in the Square was a fantastic evening, and just remind everybody the last wind down is this
Oh,
Friday.
thank you, yes.
Kristen?
I also attended the Thunder in the Square, and as I noted to some of you, they're always great events. The family loves to attend them, and they like coming down just in general. In fact, we've come down on a number of nights where they sort of got canceled, and we just hung out anyway. But the one thing that I did note was, with these events and the level of success that they do have, they do pack the restaurants, and it creates definitely some difficulty for folks, come down for that duration to eat. So, any solution, I think that event organizers could come up with the city to work through some of those details, I think would be appreciated, and I think that would go a long way to getting even more folks to come down. I know it's a struggling dynamic between the restaurants who don't see that much activity on a regular basis otherwise, and so I get that. I guess just trying to work out an effort to find that happy medium. The other item is attended the Quad State Legislative event with Emily and some state legislators from Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, and Virginia last week. It was hosted here right in downtown, and the two issues on the day were the opioid issue and then the urban project, and so they're two very significantly different topics, and we obviously spent most of our time talking about the opioid issue because it clearly is affecting our quad state partners, and even in a meeting like that, and I can imagine when Emily goes to some of these others, just the absence of sort of what I'll call on the street understanding of the issue and the hurdles associated
with addressing it was, was an eye-opening discussion experience. And, but on the flip side, the urban project, it was interesting to hear from the other state representatives from the other states, just how well-known this project and especially the School for the Arts is within the region as sort of this pinnacle item that they all sort of covet. And I thought that was a pretty interesting and reassuring thing to hear.
Emily?
No comments?
Very briefly, I'm going to echo the sentiments about Thunder in the Square. It was a fantastic evening, and Kristen's correct. Every restaurant was jam-packed full, and there were easily 3,000, if not more, in the downtown area for 3+ hours. So I know everybody had a good time. I think what brought so many out, although the fact that those old cars, and it's a fantastic event, but I also think that considering this was the first one we've had since May, unfortunately because of the weather, so I think everybody was finally ready to come out and cut loose on a Friday night downtown, and it definitely showed. A lot of beautiful cars. It was tough making a choice, but I did it anyway, so. What's that? Well, I didn't pick a lot of people's cars, unfortunately. Oh, I'm sure. Anyway, having said that, Friday night, come on down for Wind Down. It'll be another nice evening. So, thank you all. See you next week.
Oh, we have signatures.